Hello, fellow cosmic companions. This is my second video on this channel, and with this video I want to share how my 6 years of heavy nicotine addiction went by, and how I almost lost my sanity and almost my life, and how I found myself back to peace and happiness. And I think there is some value to this story that you, as someone, if you're trying to quit, will learn a lot of things and find more motivation if you need, if you're looking for it. And the rest of the people will also find some value to how a fellow smoker like me went through and how I saved myself. And in my 6 years of smoking heavily, I experienced a lot of things, a lot of emotions, lots of phases, and let's say lots of intensity of anxiety and confusion, and also finding myself back. So I found a really good way to put it into a flowchart. So using this flowchart, I could picture where I was when I was doing some level of smoking. For example, if I was smoking 5 cigarettes a day, I was probably somewhere here, dependency level 3/5. And when I was the most addicted, I was smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. That's almost 20. And if I was drinking, I was doing even more, which was very dangerous and not pleasant, let me tell you. And that I consider was very heavy smoking. Let's add a very to this. Okay, I can't do that in this preview mode, but I'll keep updating this in the days to come, and I will share the link of this flowchart with you. Okay, now let's go through it one by one. And to put it into perspective, the line here is the normal flow of life. If anything you can consider normal, there is nothing exactly like the normal flow of life, but let's say we could consider when someone is basically happy, satisfied with what he has in life, his life is functioning normally. No big reason to have too much anxiety or maybe too much happiness. So that's the neutral line of life that I was supposing is here. And there might be a lot of reasons that could take you down towards the dependency and decline. And it could be some life event, or it could be some dependency, substance dependency, which is really very powerful. And it could be any substance, but in this video I'm going to focus on the nicotine addiction that I had, and the only one I have the story of to tell you. So the higher we go in this graph, it is more happiness, more freedom. And let me show you the peak. So the most freedom and the most happiness could be termed as a very happy, thriving life. And there are a lot of things that we have to do consistently to achieve that and maintain it, because that's what life is. Like, you can't just be happy, You can't just think and be happy, or can't just force yourself to be happy. It's a series of steps that you have to do almost every day, or at least frequently, consistently. And in similar but opposite way, to go into depression, or in the clinical term, major depressive disorder, that's when you completely lose your mind and you completely lose the motivation to live. That requires consistent negative habits, right? So we could really consider the graph to have two sides, one side of happiness and one side of extreme sadness. So how my life, my nicotine dependent life began was in 2012. So this point could be 2012. That was when I could say I had a stable life flow. Okay, your first cigarette is not what you choose to do, right? Or you could choose to experiment, but it's usually your friend who you see smoking or who asks you to smoke and see what it's like. Maybe not get addicted and just get an experience of it, just a drag. And the first cigarette, it's not good, is it? It's not good. I didn't enjoy my first cigarette. It was disgusting. It smelled bad. The smell stayed in my hands and mouth for a long time. Did not like it. But I did my second one again. A few days later, I did my second one. Because my friends were doing it too. And it wasn't something serious. I didn't get addicted to the first cigarette, so why not? Didn't think too much of it. And I took my second drag. And I took multiple drags that day. And about an hour later, I got a mild headache. And started to feel different. That day was slightly different, that I remember. And not different in a good way, of course. It was like a mild brain fog. I didn't know what it was, but later I came to know it was the nicotine dependency, the wish to smoke another cigarette. And smoking another one would kind of clear that brain fog. Okay? So I started casually experimenting with the habit. I liked the next one. Okay, I smoked under the drag next day, and it felt good. It didn't get me high or anything, but it just satisfied me. So, my second cigarette had done something to me, had started the need, and probably also the first cigarette that contributed. And the chain of smoking started. The need to fulfill, the need to be happy. So I was just normally happy if I hadn't been smoking, but because I was smoking, I was not my normal level of happiness. So I had to smoke to get back to my normal level of happiness. It wasn't the perfect going back, of course. It was close, you could say. But then again, like an hour or two, 3 or 3 later, it started draining back, and I had to smoke another one to get back to the line. Okay? But the more you smoke, you start going down and down and down so much that you have to keep smoking multiple ones to try to get to the normal level of happiness. But then you really can't. You never can. It keeps you pulling down, down, and down. And of course, after I realized I had got a habit, I started to realize I have to quit. It wasn't feeling good, it was feeling different. But I should also say I wasn't very conscious in the beginning. Only after smoking about 10, 15 cigarettes, I started to realize I really needed a cigarette. I was starting to really get dependent. And I realized I had to quit. But then when I attempted to quit, it didn't go well. That day was one of the saddest days I had in a long time. And I even had to drink. I promised myself I wouldn't smoke, but then I couldn't stop myself, and I said, okay, a drink is fine, it's not smoke, so I drank. When I drank, I felt good. I felt like something that was missing because of the smoke. Now it was okay. It was missing the whole day. Of course, it was the nicotine that my brain was missing. It was craving. But then alcohol kind of took the dependency away. But then after I started drinking, I drank a little more. And then I thought of a drag. And, why not? I'm going to smoke. And then when I smoke after the drink, it was so pleasuresome. And that was when I realized I am just like anybody else now. I know what it feels like. Okay, this is what it is like. This is what my friends do. And I thought it was kind of cool too, so why not be a bad guy for some time? Doesn't matter, I'm not evil. Okay, let's continue to be bad. I rationalized not being happy and being that kind. Judging back. Well, that was fine. Life is all about experimentations. It's okay to lose yourself. Right? But if you find it back, it's okay to lose yourself. Okay? Let's see what happens in the future. And then I persistently started smoking every day in the cafes. When my friends gathered, I was one with them, and now it was easier to socialize. Everyone was doing it. I was the cool guy. I was the cool smoker guy. I was not the one outside the group, and he's not the cool one. He doesn't smoke. I didn't have to feel that anymore. So And I was at 2 by 5 for sure, because when I started drinking, I really liked to smoke, and I smoked multiple cigarettes when I drank. I couldn't do multiple cigarettes when I was not drinking, but still I started to smoke a full pack of cigarettes. Instead of just taking a drag or two from my friend, I started smoking a full cigarette, not a pack, but a whole cigarette. And then I could still skip a day or two, but it wouldn't be so good. That I knew. I knew I could be better off with a cigarette. But then sometimes I was skipping it just non-voluntarily. I was not too serious about smoking still. But then I slowly started to notice a lot of things. So I was complaining more. I was stressful and I was complaining more. And when I got angry, for example, I remember getting angry with my girlfriend. I got really angry. That wasn't me. I'd never seen that side of me, but then I got really angry, dramatically angry. Wow, how did that come? But that felt really natural. That felt good to get so angry, I didn't know what it was. I thought it was just a situation. I thought it was my girlfriend who was mistaken. It was her problem. And I was rationalizing myself. But then I realized when I was angry, if I went for a cigarette and I smoked, my anger went down. So what did that mean? The anger was induced by the nicotine. Okay, then that was the point I realized that I had anxiety because of nicotine. When I didn't smoke, I kind of felt like an anxiety, low feeling. It's like the opposite of high. It was low. You're not really conscious. You have kind of a brain fog and you don't feel good much. You don't feel like communicating. You don't enjoy movies or even feel like going outside. You don't have too much drive. That feeling started to grow. And the only solution was go outside and smoke. And then I realized instead of washing my face, I would rather smoke. Instead of going out with my girlfriend, I would rather drink and smoke and party. So suddenly I realized this tube cigarette, this one drug that everyone told me was not harmful and not strong, didn't give you a high, it's nothing, doesn't do anything, was suddenly I realized it does a lot. I started to realize it is a drug, it's a powerful drug. It changes my mood so much that it makes me a completely different person. Because just 6 months ago I was not like that. And nothing seriously had changed in my life. But then I had changed. My feeling of life, my feeling of being alive had changed. My relationship had damaged. I had a problem with my girlfriend, and later which I realized wasn't her fault. And because of that foul language I used, because I was really angry at her, broke the relationship. I regretted it, and after that, needless to say, didn't get a girlfriend for a long time. Because the cigarette took me down, and maybe not all the people feel exactly the same way, but I've always thought of myself as an intellectual person, and I analyze myself, and I have to be happy. If I'm not happy, then I lose my drive. And I think it's the same with others, but most people seem to just not care and just move on with their lives. That's fine, but you can ignore your problems, you can bury your head in the sand, but that does not solve the problem. You can keep ignoring it, but I think the wiser thing is to face it and move on. But if you face it and cannot move on, then that's a big problem. Ignoring would rather be easy and be even better. If you can't fix a problem and keep thinking about it, and it gets too serious with you, overthink about it, I can't still fix it, then that is what leads you to serious anxiety and depression. And that is what I was starting to feel like I was stepping into. Okay, I needed a cigarette to be happy. And slowly, I needed cigarette after food. I needed cigarette right after getting up, with tea and coffee. With everything, I needed a cigarette. And my attempt to quit were failing. At that time, I didn't have much help. All of my friends were smoking. They seemed fine. But I guess everyone has their problems. They're they're good at hiding. But for me, it was a new experience. People had been doing that for quite a while, and for me, it was new. It was quick. In 6 months, I had been completely addicted to a cigarette, the habit. Everyone else seemed fine, so I had to hide my problems too. So I just played along, and I sought no help. I didn't even tell my other friends, and I didn't really have lots of close friends at that time of life. And I was also a little proud to receive help. I thought I didn't need help. I'm okay, I'm good, I'm intelligent. I don't need help. That was a big problem. Actually, if I had been open, then my friends, a friend or two were wise ones, They could really have probably given me good suggestions and helped me with that. But I was too proud to be honest and express my feelings. So I continued with my addiction. And needless to say, I went deeper and deeper. There was no staying right there at the level 3. Welcome to level 4, where I am a nicotine addicted individual now. I felt like I was addicted to heroin. It was like carrying heroin all the time, carrying cocaine and snorting it. Right? What's the difference? The difference is you do nicotine more than you do cocaine. I was smoking it 15 times a day. Of course, right after waking up at 7 a.m. And after an hour you drink tea. Okay, you feel like smoking a little bit, maybe not a whole cigarette, but you do feel like smoking a little. And tea is incomplete without a cigarette for the smoker. And then I smoked, and then after food I smoked it at 9, and then I had a break at 10:15. That's when I smoked again, and lunch at 12, another break at 2 p.m. or something. And then after college at 4, and then I came home, I drank a little bit. With the drinks, I smoked 2 or 3 at the other night. Before sleep, I went to bed, I smoked 1 more. So at least 10 every day, and probably 15 at most at this phase. This was probably around 2014. About 2 years, I was at dependency level 4, heavily addicted. Continued this for a long time. I used to carry a cigarette pack all the time, and my hands were shaky, probably because of withdrawals. That if I didn't smoke for like 2-3 hours, it trembled a little bit, and it kind of like shook all the time. It wasn't really stable, and I thought it was normal. That was kind of okay, and it kind of was normal. I rationalized that. My lips turned black, completely black. I smoked like 500 cigarettes or maybe more, and because of the smoke, the tar in the smoke, my lips, my luscious red lips, were no more attractive. They turned black. And of course, I smelled too. Cigarette smoke smells. The girls don't like it. Even guys don't like it. I don't like it now that I don't smoke, and I'm a very clean person. And anyone who comes around with a fume of smoke, it is not a pleasant smell. So every hour or two you're smoking, the smoke goes to your hair, and your clothes catch it too, and your sweat has smoke. You're like a walking smoke. You're walking cigarette that people can't smoke, but you smell like one. So that's when I accepted that I am a heavy smoker now. I went 1 step beyond that. I was smoking about 20 cigarettes a day. That was more than a pack. And the most amount of cigarettes was when I was drinking. There was no limit. There was no limit. None at all. I was smoking like 5-6 cigarettes with the drinks. And sometimes if I drank from like 3 p.m. to 12 p.m. at night, then I would be smoking 15-20 cigarettes. That was crazy. But I had a lot of tolerance. I could smoke a lot. And then I did. I know people do. But there's a big, big, big but. At this time, your life is a mess. Complete mess. You can't really do much. When you work, you're thinking about a cigarette. When you're driving, You're thinking about a cigarette. Where do I get down and smoke? You know, the breaks in between, when I was a dependent in the level 2 and 3, okay? There was time in between I didn't think about the cigarettes. And then I thought about it again and again that day. But at 5, it's like almost every hour you're thinking about cigarette. Half an hour, in about half an hour, you could smoke another one. So you are filled with nicotine, your blood is filled with nicotine and tar, and so many other chemicals that are present in the who knows whatever things that these factories and these people mix in the cigarettes. And I realized I was fucked. I was messed up, you know. I was not capable of having a girlfriend. I was not dealing my family relationships right. I was too angry. I was too moody, too stressed. I ruined my exams and my career. The drink and smoke were complementing each other, and from the morning to the evening, every smoke that I took was fucking up my brain, and towards the end I was forced to drink, to forget how fucked up I would be if I didn't. That was how I was coping with it. The drink helped. So they were synonymous. You know, I was addicted to 2 things now. Quit attempt, yes. But then, heavy depression. Very heavy depression. The next day I didn't smoke. It was hell. It was hell. And towards the evening I had to smoke. I did. The next day I tried. I really stopped myself smoking till the evening. But then the cravings were so strong, I realized I was not going to be able to make it. I thought it was forever. Persistent cravings, then I fell back. Continued to smoke. I just couldn't face that much anxiety and that low state of mind. I couldn't reply to people. I couldn't be happy. I couldn't smile. My face, when people looked at me, what's wrong with you? They would say. It's not right. It's not you. They would say, and that killed me more. That demotivated me. And I just smoked and kind of felt like a bit more like normal again. I could smile a little bit. And at that time, my self-work, my exercise routine, non-existent. I was walking. I was going places and visiting, but there wasn't proper exercise. I wasn't meditating, and my food was very bad. Of course, I was drinking, and you know who drinks and does good food, who drinks so much and eats proper diet. Of course, I wasn't drinking right either, and my sleep habits. Needless to say, it was bad. I couldn't sleep, and when I slept all day. That was my sleep habit. It was fucked. And by the time it was 2016. Towards the end of 2016, my self-respect was at my least. Okay? I lost my confidence. I knew I had lost the good old Vivek. I was a different person now and not worthy of respect. Okay? And it wasn't all the time. I was good at ignoring things and just moving on with my life. There were times when I used to enjoy too. Why not? And there was crazy of time when I laughed a lot when my friends drank and smoked, and smoked cannabis sometimes, and that took the burden off for some time, but didn't really help. So there were breaks, there were times which made me sane, but most of the time the fallback, the normal, the sober state was fucked. It was hell. And I kind of sometimes started sharing with my friends, my close friends. Luckily I had 2. I got to share with them. And I started talking about this habit and how detrimental it is. And we started reducing it. We started reducing using it. When we got together, we used to smoke less. Instead of smoking the full cigarettes, we only smoked like a few puffs, and then we didn't smoke the rest. So that was working a little bit. We tried to reduce the smoke, but it wasn't a very long-term solution. Somehow you always find some time when you smoke more, and then all the reduction of nicotine in your brain that you worked so hard with just goes down to the same level. Once you smoke like 2 or 3 when you're drunk, you're just in the same level and you're still in the 5x5 dependency phase. So I got some help, and then I tried again, but then it kept falling back and continued to smoke. It had been a long time. It was too long, and I was also too proud to, tell my family and meet a doctor. I was, well, my ego had taken over. I thought I knew better. I knew myself. I didn't need help. I thought I could work it out myself. But then that never worked, and none of the things worked. So I started drinking too much, even more than that. But then whenever I was free, I was drinking. And with the very poor sleep cycle, my ruined circadian rhythms, and also the drinkers and smokers company that continued, not everyone were the ones who wanted to quit. Most of the friends, the new friends that I met, they wanted to share, they were cool. Sharings makes one continue to smoke in the circle, The circle is what keeps the continuity. That is one big a reason why people keep doing it and can't quit, is because your friends have been smoking and you just can't say no. You can't suddenly change and be the odd one out, right? And combined with the unhealthy diet, my energy was lowest, and I had lost my emotional intelligence too. I had really ruined my relationships. I was not doing well. It was an emotional crisis, emotional hellhole, and I declared myself depressed. I was depressed, and then I seek real help. And then I got help, and then very soon, in a month's time, I turned it around. Okay? Now this is a missing piece of the puzzle here. I will make this connection later in the next episode, because this one would be too long if I did. But then I jumped from here to here. I really found a way. There is a way. And I'm not selling you anything. I'm just being honest. And I'm just sharing this with you, hoping that someone will find value to this and someone's life will improve. So it's a good deed. I could feel good about that. So somehow, okay, the missing piece of the puzzle that I'll talk about in the next episode, I came here to physical and emotional health recovery. Okay, I started recovering. I noticed I was feeling better. Okay, and I had to bring my life back in track. I was the good one, I was the intelligent one. I was the confident one. So I wouldn't quit, I wouldn't quit. I wouldn't go suicide, because even though I was that depressed, because I remembered that side of me. That old Vivek. He was awesome. He was handsome. He was so eloquent. People loved him. He could sing. He could play guitar. He was very amiable. And almost everything he did with passion and with creativity. And, he was so full of love. And how can that person not go back to who he was? That was what kept me going, And also what forced me to work on myself. Okay, that was my story about my experience with nicotine dependency and how I found myself from depression to a thriving life. And I will join the piece of the missing puzzle in my next episode. And I have a public link for this Canva presentation in the description. Okay? And you guys can go through it. I've also listed some physical health effects as well as mental health effects caused by smoking to push you more into quitting it if you are wanting to. And it's quite surprising, ain't it, that if there was a biscuit in a department store and it had written, you might get frequent headaches if you eat this cigarette, nobody will touch it. But a cigarette packet has so many disclaimers in its packet, and we smoke it every day 20 times. And we rationalize and we call ourselves rational beings and preach others good values. How hypocrite can we be? Okay, hoping that you found value in my video today. Thank you for watching so much. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye and have a good day.